Welcome everyone to this wonderful conversation session. My name is Michael and I will be anchoring this conversation. So I'm just going to let the rest of the team introduce themselves so you get to understand and you get to know each person. So I will stop talking now.
Hi everyone, my name is Wanji Eliam, and I am the programs manager at Africa Yoga Project. And basically my role is to see that the different programs that we have run successfully. And so pre-COVID, we had programs where we brought guests from all over the world to visit Kenya. And so making their stay here comfortable and organized was my role. And then now during COVID is now figuring out the programs online and also fundraising for our teachers. So that's my role.
Thank you, Angie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Fred Wango, and I'm the monitoring, I have a long title, just be prepared. I'm the monitoring evaluation manager, and also I double up as the child safeguarding manager. So basically my role is to support the organization in mining impact and also being able to tell these impact stories in a way that compelling, a way that can be consumed by all stakeholders, but then also spearhead child safeguarding. What this does is I lead the organization in coming up with safeguarding policies, safeguarding measures, structures, ensure that anyone participating within the organization is safe. We started off as child safeguarding, but now we are growing it into safeguarding for everyone who participates within the organization. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Fred. That's really, really something. I think we will at some point talk about what child safeguarding is and the entire concept of your, the entire direction of your role and what it means, especially to an organization like Africa Yoga Project. So thank you, Fred, for that introduction.
Hi everyone. My name is Catherine Jerry, and I'm the Director of Teachers and Online Programs. And so my job as the Director of Teachers is I'm in charge of all the content at Africa Project Academy that has to do with teaching yoga, like on the mat, we call it on the mat content, and all the teachers report to me. And for online programs, I'm in charge of launching our online studio. So any recorded materials, any new programs that are done online, like SSS and Burn Your Burnout, I'm in charge of that. That's me.
Thanks, Catherine. That's a lot. That's a lot. I'm just thinking of all the different, materials that AYP puts out every year or turns out every year. And now even taking it online, all those recordings, all those sessions, all sessions, all those classes, it's a huge role. And I really, really commend you for that. Thank you for that introduction. So I just mentioned my first name because I wanted everyone to go first. My name is Michael Ernest Tunwa. I presently handle the communication and marketing for AYP. And what this means is this. So us having this conversation and you getting to watch it, that's what it means. Anything when it comes to communication, when it comes to our effort, amplifying our effort and talking about our efforts, because I realized that, Africa Yoga Project is a non-profit, and just based on the tenets of yoga and based on the tenets of the practice, we are humble people. But I'm here to humbly brag, and I'm here to humbly talk about the impact of our work and to humbly amplify what we do, because a lot of people might not know the extent of what we do. For instance, a lot of people don't know that we have communities and presence in 21 African countries. I don't think any other should I say, well-being initiative has done that on the continent. Talk more of any other yoga affiliated organization doing that in Africa. And this 21 communities translates to so many lives and so many families. For instance, I have my family, and because of me, there are so many people that I am responsible for. So it's like a ripple effect. So Africa Yoga Project does amazing work, and my role is to really bring it to the forefront, to humbly brag about the work that we do. So thank you so much for tuning in to this conversation, and for watching, and for sharing, and for commenting, and for liking, because I know you're going to do that. Thank you so much. So I think the first thing that we should talk about, anyone can answer this, is what is Africa Yoga Project? Who are we? What do we do? What do we represent?
I can take that. Africa Yoga Project is a registered NGO in Kenya, and 5413C in the US. I keep confusing whether it's 5431 or 5413. So yeah, in the US. And what we do is we train yoga teachers in Africa and across the globe. And our main focus is to create employability for youths in Africa. So that leads to our mission, which is our mission is to educate, elevate, empower, and expand employability with the youth in Africa. So our biggest vision is to create opportunities for youth to step into their greatness so that they can become self-sustainable in their community. We give them tools. These tools are yoga through a 3-year academy program. So in the academy, they run more about Baptist power yoga, other styles of yoga that guests come to teach, and then life skills, and they get skills that would empower them to be self-employable after the 3 years. So then we have seen teachers going out deciding to do other things other than yoga, or continuing teaching yoga, or tapping into the wellness industry, like what's missing in the wellness industry. And then they will notice that and they tap into that. For example, one of our teachers who makes yoga blocks, he noticed that no one makes yoga blocks in Kenya, and how he's using recycled materials to make yoga blocks, and that he discovered his passion through Africa Yoga Project. So basically that's what we are.
That's amazing. Amazing. Any other person wants to add anything? Fred, Catherine? Any other thing? Thank you, Angie, for that explanation, and for pretty much talking about what we do as a people and as an organization. So where does outreach come into play? How does this come into, because I know some of the things that we did last year was to help with COVID-19 relief, which we're going to talk about in a moment. So where does it feed into that whole explanation of who and what we are, Wanji?
Yeah, I'll let Catherine answer that as the director of teachers.
So yeah, thank you, Angie and Michael. Part of the academy requirement for the Wanji mentioned about, we have a 3-year academy, and part of the academy is our teachers teaching free yoga classes in their communities, and that's we call them outreach classes. So pre-corona, every teacher had was teaching like 5 classes a week, free for the students who are coming in the classes, totally unpaid. And I'm talking about places like the slums in Nairobi, Kibera, Kariobangi, Mombasa. We had classes in South Africa, free classes in West Africa, free classes in East Africa. So all the teachers in the 21 countries are responsible for teaching private, sorry, not private, free outreach classes.
And Michael, if I can just add on to what Catherine has said, is that our model is anchored on the need to build well-being leaders, build entrepreneurs. And so after an individual goes through, or a youth goes through the 200-hour training, which is our entry point, they're expected to be able to establish their own outreaches in their own communities. Now, this they do on their own, with a sense of just wanting to give them the ability to go out there, identify these outreaches, be able to convince their community members to join some of these classes on their own without our intervention. That already gives them a starting point to start building their leadership skills, and also to build their entrepreneurship skills, because at the end of the day, like Wanji mentioned, we would want them to be able to tap into the well-being industry, which is quite huge, but largely untapped in Africa. And that can only come in if someone has that intrinsic push to be able to navigate on his own. And so that's why we have the outreach program designed that way.
I absolutely love that. I love those responses. Thank you, Catherine and Fred. Because what that also tells me is that it tells me that the practice and wellness and well-being and the message of well-being is being amplified in all of those communities. There is also accessibility to wellness practices, accessibility to yoga because of those practices. And I really, 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 really love the idea that the teachers, the academic teachers go through, a process. It's not just a one-off where you pretty much go, hand off things and then leave. It's pretty much taking that person and transforming, one way or another, transforming the person's life. And also the person's community. So I really, really love that. Thank you so much for that clarification. I'm very sure that for a lot of people, this would clarify some things, or this would help explain a lot of things in terms of what we do. So yes, you mentioned, Catherine, you mentioned 2020 and the pandemic and transitioning and all of that. Let's just take a trip back to 2020. How did the year start for AYP? And then when the pandemic happened, what was the reaction? What was the energy like? Because we are big on energy. We are big on, the vibe. So how was the energy like? And then we can talk about the way forward, how we moved, or in times of the pandemic, starting from 2020.
So the year 2020 started great, just like any year before 2020. And like in Kenya, we even had somebody had a song. There was a song out of how 2020 will be an amazing year. Yeah, we started with a Seva. Yeah, our biggest project that year was Seva. Wanji, can you say more about the first?
Yeah, we had 2 Sevas in 2020. We had one Seva from our donors from Canada, and they called Give Joy, Get Joy. And then what we did was we built seating materials and standing support for kids with special needs using recycled cardboards. In Kenya, we call them cartons. So we brought those, so many of them, using, we made glue out of wheat flour and water. That's what we are using as glue, and then stuck them together, and we made these beautiful sitting chairs and then standing aids for the kids with special needs. We partnered with an organization in Kibera called the Action Foundation. They deal with kids with special needs, and that was amazing. And then we also had another Seva, which was called Yod. Yod is a type of yoga that mixes HIIT workout and AYP, Baptist Power Yoga, and they bring that together. very nicely. I love Yod. And so, yeah, we did that. Seva was to train our teachers that had been trained the previous years, level 2. And then those that were joining for the first time, they trained as level 1 Yod teachers. So that was a good, at the beginning, that was in Feb, just before COVID hit.
Yeah, so that's how, and also we had so many plans, especially for the academy and teachers. Like we had a teacher training already set for April of last year. And then in March, Kenya had our first case of COVID. And by the time we were going to April, we were on partial lockdown. So that means like we closed the Shine Center, and the Shine Center is like our home, Africa Yoga Project home. That's where all the physical classes happen, all the meetings happen there. That's where the office is. So we go to the office every day. And that's where our academy sessions, like in-person academy sessions, are happening for the yoga teachers, and our big community class. But then when we went on partial lockdown, when Corona hit Kenya really hard, all that stopped. And for the first time since Africa Yoga Project was open, like in 2009, for the first time we didn't have our community class in 2020. And then now our teachers, remember our teachers come from the most populated areas. So like the slums, highly populated. So they could not go, they stopped teaching in-person classes. And now they went to online. And can you now, I was imagining moving all the programs that we were doing in person, moving them online, and having teachers who are teaching in the communities, start teaching online, like on Facebook and Instagram. So that was something that we haven't done before. And first I was like, this will be over in like a month. And then after a month, I started panicking. I'm like, oh my God, this might be our life. Yeah, so I'll say the biggest changes that we did was moving our programs online.
That's interesting. How did Fred, in terms of moving the programs online and every activity online due to the pandemic, how were the teachers and how were the teachers able to cope? How were the communities able to cope? And how did they navigate it? And what support did AYP give to these teachers?
That's a good question, Michael. Hope you guys can hear me. Perfect. Yeah, I would say when we registered the first case in Kenya, I remember it was mid-March. I mean, it presented a window of uncertainty. There was that sense of uncertainty to almost everyone. I remember Catherine introducing sanitizing at the entrance of Shine Center just before we decided to close the office to be able to start working from home. So there was a lot of things that were happening within a fairly short time, and we really needed to be able to adapt. And like she just said, we had to move outreaches now being taught online. Definitely, that was a huge change for teachers. We also had to move teachers to start taking the academy sessions that were happening at Shine Center in person online, which actually presented a whole new opportunity, though it was quite a big shift that happened pretty fast and people really had to adjust to it. I would say a number of teachers and a number of staff kind of struggled to adjust because this was new normal that people didn't know. One, we had just reporting high levels of anxiety. They've been used to coming to Shine Center, a space where people are free. It's always been a community. It's been like a social support center where people talk of, hey, when I'm feeling down, I come to Shine Center. I have teachers who say that, hey, when we are being brutalized by the police in our communities, then I think the only safe place is Shine Center. Now, this same Shine Center has been locked because of COVID-19 protocols. People can't be able to go there. So that time I remember doing case studies and teachers talking about, hey, we are having a lot of anxiety, a lot of pressure, and since most of these spaces that we are also teaching yoga in have been closed, we've also lost livelihoods. Because remember, literally almost everyone was going to work from home, community centers where people would be converging to even take yoga sessions. Everyone was moving, and a lot of social distance requirements were being enforced by the government. But again, people did not know how someone who has COVID, whether someone who has COVID would be able to survive. So even the plans that yoga teachers had, the ones that they were teaching privately, had to put all these things on hold. That really took a big toll on the teachers, and quite a number of them reported having lost income. People who were earning between, I had done case studies, I think, and most of the teachers were talking about earning between 300 to 700 USD COVID. But with COVID, that figure actually literally went down. Remember, I would say, for example, in Kenya, the minimum wage is around 130 USD a month. But now people are earning way above that, had gotten to a point where they had lost income to a great extent. And so that really brought in high level of anxiety. How did we support, how did AYP support these teachers? I think the first campaign we did was called Share Your Sanitizer. Catherine, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's been a while. So where we had to fundraise for items, and these were mainly to supply and support the community with I think we had jerry cans in there. We had a lot of supplies that were going in terms of to support in terms of basic sanitary needs. Most of these people are coming from communities that access to water is a problem, access to some of this equipment is a problem, or some of these facilities is a problem. So that was the first, and we actually involved most of the teachers in distributing some of these things in their communities. And we also, since we had moved access to Google Classroom, we ensured that we provided them with airtime so that they can continue accessing Academy. And this was actually a blessing in this case, because we had now even the other teachers in other parts of Africa being able to access the same content that those who are attending sessions at Shine Center were able to achieve. I will also be talking, I don't know whether you want me to talk about Change Maker grant, where we were able to give yoga teachers a grant. Everyone was able to go out there, identify the needs of their communities, and implement a project.
Yes, go ahead, Fred.
Thank you. So that's one of them.
Go ahead, Fred. Hey, of course.
One very interesting innovation that we had in 20...
Guys, that's Bruce in the background. You can't, sorry for a moment. Sorry, excuse me, Fred. That's Bruce in the background. You can't see him, but I'm very sure before this video ends, we are going to see his face. And he's going to do a bit of introduction since he decided to speak on this call. So he needs to show himself during the recording. He needs to show himself and come out of his cool glory. So, so you guys stay on. Don't go anywhere. Bruce, we're going to welcome Bruce in a moment. So carry on, Fred.
Thank you. And I know Wanji and Catherine will be able to jump in if there's anything I leave out in as far as support to the teachers is concerned. The Change Maker grant that we internally called the Global Wellbeing Leadership Challenge. This was a perfect opportunity for just to really learn and put into practice what they had learned in the academy, but at the same time, live our values of being of service and supporting their communities. So this is where we designed a grant And then our grantees, if I were to use that language, our grantees were the teachers. So teachers were to apply. So you apply for the grant, then if you qualify, because we had a committee comprised of staff drawn from different functional units, they were to review this application. So after they reviewed the applications, those who qualified were able to get grants, and these grants, they use them to implement their own community project, mainly focused on providing basic supplies to communities. Remember, at this time, we had people who had lost livelihoods. Most of them some of them who are actually their yoga students. So teachers got an opportunity to live our values of service, but also into practice some of the things that they had learned. I remember when I was going through the feedback, I think one striking thing was the fact that I was able to see teachers report that I didn't know I was a leader. I didn't know I had these unique managerial skills that I could be able to invoke or put into practice and be able to deliver a grant or be able to deliver a project successfully. So we had all that, and out of that, we were able to reach a total of 24,568 individuals using that through that grant. And of course, we reached 7,367 families. I love the number, so in between I'll have to throw in the numbers. And we gave a total of 383 grants, each worth 20,000 Kenyan shillings. That was how much in USD, Catherine?
$200.
Yes, that's $200 for each grant. And it was really amazing to see teachers go out and implement and do their own stories and come back and report. Anything? Let me allow my colleagues to add in anything that we have missed.
Like for us, when we received the grant in the beginning, we focused on women like who were at home, they had lost their jobs and all that. And then by the time we were doing the second one, there had been really high cases of teenage pregnancies, and we thought that we can do something. So we called the teenagers, and then we were giving them advice. We hired a counselor who was talking to them, a male counselor and a female counselor, peer educators, and it was the most impactful of those two was when we went back now for the third time, because the grant was given 3 times. When we went back for the third time, we could see the impact of having the peer educators educate the girls. They felt empowered. They didn't hate themselves anymore for giving birth as young. They understood that there is postnatal trauma and stress. They didn't know that they were going through before, and that they were able to even seek help. And that was just amazing.
Yeah, so the grant started as, giving back to the community and distributing food. And then it went into more than just giving food. And yeah, we were giving food, but we were also like providing counselors. And Wanji forgot, like Wanji and I did the same grant. We applied for grant and we did our grant together. We even hired like security, because apart from just having like young mothers out without work, even like young men also lost their income. So we hired some as security, just to be, so that people can feel safe and comfortable when we were meeting and having those education lessons.
Wow, that's amazing. So for everyone watching, this is news to me because I just joined the team not so long ago. So this is news to me. That's what I said about just because, or based on what the practice represents and based on what the organization is, my team, sorry to say, they don't make noise about these things. They just do it, and they are really quiet about it. But I'm here And I'll make sure that we talk about these things because people need to know the impact of the work that we do. People need to know the impact that AYP is providing in our communities. People need to also see the faces behind all of these projects. We need to bridge that gap, which is one of the reasons why we are doing this. Because you mentioned, Fred, you shared, all of you, you've shared some things that are really, really mind-blowing for me. Fred, you talked about the numbers, the amount of people that we reached, the amount of families and the amount of things that were distributed. Wanji, you talked about how the program transitioned. Wanji and Catherine, you both talk about how the program transitioned from just supporting the community to even focusing on women who in all ramifications are one of the minority groups in African communities. And then you took it a step further to look at, you know, teenage pregnancy and women that have, you know, had to give birth on while they are still teenagers and while they are still super young, and providing them with support and providing them with, especially in a year like 2020, especially in a time like 2020, that was extremely difficult for a lot of people. You were still doing the work. You did not freeze. You did not, you know, stop what you were still doing the work. So it's pretty amazing. It's pretty commendable. I think at this point, I'm just going to let Fred give us the numbers because I can see that it aligns with community empowerment, with some of the things that you've mentioned, reaching out to all of these various communities, whether it's with women, whether it's with, you know, teenage girls, whether it's with men that are out of jobs and you providing them with some source of income. To even the teachers. I can also see the self-empowerment aspect of it, where the teachers are coming back to say, I never knew I was a leader. I never knew I could manage things. I never knew I could manage resources. I never knew, you know, I could be this. I can also see the economical aspect of it. Where you, Catherine, you talked about hiring the security people, the men that were out of jobs as security details to make the environment feel a lot more safer for these teenage girls. And I'm very sure that there is a lot of, you know, in terms of economic empowerment that you've done, which we've not yet which we've not yet talked about. So I'm going to allow Fred to give us some of the numbers in, you know, the various categories.
Before I give out the numbers, there's just this aspect of leadership that was really striking. It's so burning that I cannot let go without mentioning here, especially amongst our teachers in 2020. I think I really saw firsthand how our teachers had grown into leaders. So if you can allow me to just quickly highlight it before I mention numbers, I think that would also be very important. One, before we even designed the Changemaker grant, we had very striking leadership coming from a team in Rwanda, a group of our yoga teachers in Rwanda who decided to donate their own cash, even before we gave out money for people to distribute anything. They donated their own cash, put it together, bought basic supplies in terms of soap and some sanitary items that they could be able to distribute to their communities, especially at the point when we had COVID just started. They were able to distribute that to a very big number of community members. I think that needs to be really highlighted and talked about because that went to show how they live AYP values. Coming back to Kenya, I want to highlight two safeguarding champions who on their own rescued children who are being abused. One in Isili. Isili is one of the informal settlements in Nairobi that was under lockdown. Apart from that overall lockdown that was in the country, Isili was actually locked down on its own. And one of the champions rescued a child there who was being physically abused by the guardians. And how did he do it? He walked to them and humbly spoke to the guardians and really explained to them why abuse to children and the impact of abuse to children and how they could be able to have alternative ways of punishing children or dealing with issues that they felt were not right. And the abuse stopped. We have another one in Mombasa who also rescued a girl, and a 16-year-old girl during that period again, who was going through physical abuse. She's actually done extra by supporting this girl go back to school. And remember, she did this in collaboration with the children's department in Mombasa. Our very own special needs coordinator had started engagements with potential partners who could support our deaf community here in Nairobi. And I know Catherine can be able to speak more about that. But I think for me, all that really demonstrated striking leadership that is coming from people who had gone through our program, just showing that they're really keen towards having social change in their own communities. You had asked me about the additional support that we also offered to teachers. I would also want to make sure that this doesn't go unmentioned. The fact that we partnered with other organizations that working in GVB and also working in mental health space. One of the organizations that we worked with in 2020 is Mental 360, who delivered a session to our team. Especially, remember I did mention that people were talking about a very high level of anxiety, very high because of uncertainty, loss of income. So when we had conversations with them, they accepted to offer a session to us. And I think this is the year that we also set up a committee that was working around trainings on GBV and trainings on mental health. As a result of that, we ended up having numerous series of webinars on mental health. And this was meant to continue supporting our teachers. I remember when we had one of the sessions, one of our teachers came up and he opened up about his own mental health struggles, and he was actually referred. He got referral and he got support from some of those partners. So there was actually a lot more that really happened last year in terms of offering support to the community and also offering support to teachers. I know time might not be on our side, allow me to talk more about them, but if time allows later on, we can be able to enumerate all that. A lot of amazing stuff happened in 2020.
Amazing. So yeah, time is not on our side, and I think that some of the numbers we are going to share some of these numbers on our various communication channels, whether it's social media, our newsletter, and even on this screen. We might put on the side some of the numbers in terms of the impact. Catherine, you had mentioned the impact on what it felt like, getting into 2020. But I am looking at the impact reports, AYP's Africa Yoga Project's impact reports for 2020. I'm looking at the impact reports. And despite the pandemic, the organization seemed to have performed better than 2019, despite the pandemic. In terms of economic empowerment, we saw that some of the numbers that I'm seeing is 73% of teachers reported taking additional leadership role. We are seeing the income that's compared to 2019, 70% reported being able to work elsewhere in the yoga, in the well-being industry. We saw 100% improvements on the long-term earning potential. So there are so many numbers in terms of the economic aspects of it, even in terms of employment, which is also falls under the economic aspects. Then when we look at self-empowerment from the mental health trainings and sessions and people just being mental health aware to the trauma-informed practices, to talking to specialists, to mental health first aid, and I can see all of these numbers, and it is really, really amazing. And then in terms of the community, Wanji, you've already talked about the impact on what we did in the communities and all of that. And Fred had mentioned the amount of grants that was given to different people, different teachers that went ahead to distribute in their communities. So the impact numbers are super, super amazing. They are really something that everyone should actually take a moment to look at and to really, take it in. And I also think that as the entire team needs to also look at the numbers again and really take it in and really love on yourself for the work that you've done, no matter what is going on the outside world. You made an impact. You fostered change in a year where so many people could not even roll out of bed. So I really want you to take a moment, the entire Africa Yoga Project team and teachers and supporters and everyone, to take a moment to commend yourself for the work that you've done. It's really, really remarkable. And I know that you're really modest about this, but I am not. I know you're modest and you're like, no, but I am not, because I'm looking at these numbers and they are super, super impressive. So let me share a very quick story. One of the first things, because I did my teacher training a couple of years ago at Shine Center. We started at Shine Center and then we went to the Safari where we continued on before returning back. So when I did my training, I think one of the most remarkable things that I saw during that training was the fact that it was accessible to people with special needs, people that there was permanently, sign language, people that were doing the sign language for people that could not speak or could not hear. And that's one of the things that up until this morning, I wake up thinking about it, because I don't know a lot of places. This is not just in Africa, in the world, that do that. I don't know. I don't know of any, actually. I don't know of any yoga teacher training that does that. If you do, you can put a comment and tag them. They are doing amazing work, and thank them. But I don't. And that kind of sets a huge precedent to what the way that I perceive Africa Yoga Project, the need for community, for togetherness, for empowerment, for accessibility, and that sets the tone for everything. And throughout 2020, with all the work you've done, I've seen how that comes in. Catherine, you want to say something? I will.
Yeah, and something we're so proud of is I think we are the first one to have a manual for yoga teacher training with sign language. So right now, our 200-hour teacher training manual have all the poses in sign language.
Amazing, 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 amazing. We need to get that small clip of Catherine saying that and then share on all platforms. Guys, I'm doing my job. We need to get that small clip and share on all platforms. There is also something that I want you to talk about. A yoga teacher training in an African language.
So yeah, I did the only teacher training we were able to do in 2020 was in Mombasa. And it was our first. I think now the way we'll be doing our teacher training will be smaller teacher training due to COVID restrictions. But it was the majority of the training was in Kiswahili, because everybody can speak Swahili in Mombasa, and it was all in Kiswahili. It was really, really amazing, and a good challenge for me because I'm used to leading training in English, but it was like so easy to just, you know, be able to speak into like, Swahili is my second language, you know, English is my third. I started speaking Kikuyu, then Kiswahili. So like speaking my second language was super easy.
Amazing.
So like that, yeah, that is amazing. And hopefully the more we are able to, hopefully next time we do a yoga teacher training in Rwanda, we can have somebody from Rwanda facilitate the training in Kenya, Rwanda, you know, like have all these like African teachers who are certified as lead facilitators, and they can lead training in their country, in their specific language, not like English, but Kiswahili or some African language.
Amazing. I really, really love that. And let me just tell you one other story that you may be aware of, but maybe the people watching might not be aware of. One other interesting story is that one of the teachers that is in Ghana, Rama, one of the teachers in Ghana, outreach. I'm friends with her, and she did a couple of outreach in 2019, and then even in 2020. So one of the things that she did was to teach elderly women yoga, to introduce the practice to elderly women in our community. Actually, yeah, in our community, and she would need to travel 2 hours to that particular community because she lives in Accra. She would need to travel 2 hours to get there to teach this community. And first, it was about convincing them to, you know, take up the practice and to teach, to see the benefits of the practice. But then something interesting that she told me was that she thought the practice, she teaches them in the local language. And I found that super, super, super exciting and interesting, because then it's also about accessibility for people that do not fully understand English, for people that are more comfortable with a particular. So that's what I'm saying, that Africa, my perception of Africa Yoga Project is that accessibility and inclusivity bit that comes into it, because it's accessible, it's inclusive, no matter where you are, or no matter what color of your skin, no matter what language you speak, there is that union, that community, that connection that brings everybody together, and that's just something remarkable. But before we wrap this up, what we've talked about 2020, 2021, from here on out, what are some of the things that you're looking forward to, some of the things that you know are going on in the background or even at the forefront that you all want to talk about?
Mine is like launching our online platform, like Africa Yoga Project online platform. Like that's like my biggest thing right now, is having that and having that going.
But isn't the online platform already there, Catherine?
Yeah, the online class, like the programs are there. It's just a place to keep them, all of them together, like a website. You know, like even if it's our website, or like Mind Body Wellbeing, where you can go in and click a class in Ghana. You know, like my vision is to have like a map, and you click that, the African map, and you can get a class there. If you want to do a class in Kiswahili, you can click somewhere and do a class in Kiswahili. Like just having it launched.
Thank you, Catherine. That sounds exciting, super exciting. I can't wait. Wanji, you wanted to say something?
Yes, that is something that's already continuing, started last year, and that is The Tribe. The Tribe is an online monthly subscription where you donate $50, or if you cannot afford $50, donate what you can, and what you get is worth every coin, worth every minute, because every week you receive live opening to Deep Rest taught by one of our teachers and staff. You get to attend a group of yogis that are studying Yoga Sutras every Thursday. And then every Tuesday we meet for mental health. It's just talks, I love that. And then you also record yoga, HIIT workout or dance. and then meditation. So you receive all this in 1 week. And then if you cannot make it for the live sessions, they are recorded. So you can be able to take them whenever you have time. So that is the tribe that I would love to invite everyone who is watching here. And then look out for us making chapatis. Like, we are going to be giving you a recipe of how to make chapatis.
I miss chapatis. I cannot wait. I know that's still in the works, but people, we won't share anymore regarding that. This is just, a little taste, a little tip. So look out for our announcements, look out for what we're going to share on that and how you can be a part of it. Anybody that has ever been to Shine Center or that have ever been to the community, Saturday community class is familiar with chapati and what it means to Africa Yoga Project. So, so just look out for that. Fred?
I was just waiting for the opportunity. What you need to look out for, what you need to look out for is the trauma-informed yoga research that we did in Rwanda. Quite amazing in the sense that it had really very positive results. It was the first ever trauma-informed research done in Rwanda. It was done in collaboration with Dr. Catherine Kukutan from State University of Buffalo, New York. And I'm proud to say that I was part of the team that was leading the first the research in Rwanda. It's been previously done here in Kenya and in Somali. And this is not my forte when I'm speaking about the content of all this. I know Catherine does the training and she's more informed about what trauma-informed program is all about, but is a program that runs for 12 consecutive weeks and combines practices of yoga with a set of psychological practices that helps one embody self-care, well-being practices. And the research that we did, the preliminary findings that we did suggested significant reduction in distress, symptoms that are related to trauma, and improved self-regulation, mindful self-care, personal growth, and belief. So quite positive. So we're looking forward to publication of that study. I can't wait.
Thank you, Fred. I really, really love that. And I also love that you're like the numbers guy. You're like, everything that we do, we need to, get a report for it. We need to get the numbers right. We need to know, okay, how did this change things or impact lives? So I really, really love that even with a training, with a teacher training, you still got this report to say, okay, this is how it impacted lives, not just testimonials, like an actual report. So thank you for that. Thank you, everyone. Bruce, are you ready to share your face? Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Angie. Thank you, Catherine, for this insightful conversation. No thanks to you, Bruce. But it's been super, super exciting. Any last words? Any last words? Anyone? Bruce, do you want to say something? Bruce, you're muted.
Yeah, I just realized I was talking to myself. I want to say to everybody, actually, I was just here to be a fly on the wall and sneak in some details from the team. But like, I couldn't help myself when Fred was sharing, and because I remember how impactful and huge the Changemaker grant was and what it meant for the teachers and just inspiring leadership in them. And so I couldn't help myself and I had to speak. But yeah, we can use it as good behind the scenes footage or edit it out. Either way, I just thank everybody for sharing. I've personally learned a lot of new information, I must say, and I'm over the moon. Let's brag, like you said, Michael. Let's brag. Let's beat our chest out there, man. We're doing amazing things.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bruce. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and for watching this and for sharing and for commenting and for liking and for ultimately for being a lover and supporter of Africa Yoga Project and the work that we do. Thank you. Without you, we wouldn't be here. So thank you so, so much. Please don't forget that you can always reach out to us on our social media platforms. You can always connect with us on our through our website. You can always donate to a particular cause or to a particular project. You can always be a part of anything that we are doing. We welcome every single person. We are a community. We are connected. We represent love. We represent unity. So thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. So till next time, and if you really like this conversation and want us to do more, please comment, please let us know, and we will make sure. I will see if I can bring back Fred, Wanji, and Catherine, and Bruce, because I know they are all busy people. And I know they feel extremely uncomfortable bragging, but I'm not. I'm trying to get them out of their comfort zone. So thank you so much for watching. Until next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.